As everyone out there probably knows, recently we were betrayed by one of our own in the gun community when it comes to the Hearing Protection Act and the Budget Reconciliation Bill. And it seems like now it's pretty evident who did it. And tonight I'm going to be pointing fingers, naming names, and showing some evidence to back up what I'm saying. Hey everybody, Yankee here. I'm sure all of you can remember that just a few days ago we were talking about how the Republicans in the House had betrayed the gun community. They had agreed to put the Hearing Protection Act in the Budget Reconciliation Bill. They'd basically been paid to do it. They'd been lobbied by the lobbyists. They'd greased their palms. They gave it lip service and said, yeah, we're for this, we'll put it in, we'll pass it. But then at the last minute they pulled it out. And we found out shortly after that the reason they pulled it out was because a big suppressor company stepped up and said, hey, we want to pay you to take it back out, or at least change it to where it doesn't hurt our business. And that's what they did. They pulled out the Hearing Protection Act, which would have taken silencers, suppressors off the NFA, and they just lowered the tax stamp to $5. And they thought that would satisfy everybody. Well, no, it's only extra $5 to get a tax stamp. But most of us realized what that was. That was still keeping them on the NFA, and you still had to do all the same paperwork. And it was going to keep suppressors expensive. And that's what this big suppressor company wanted, and that's what they paid them to do. And they did it. And like I said, luckily, we got it put back in after we threw a fit because we realized that didn't change anything. And politicians were like, they noticed what we did. And the gun groups even turned on them and said, hey, we paid you off, and now you're not giving us what we paid for. So like I said, they passed it by one vote today. I guess the people who took the money from the suppressor company, some of them didn't feel like they should change their votes because they already been paid. But luckily it's passed. I'm not saying it's a done deal yet. Still got to get through the Senate, but at least there's a chance now. But as I was saying, it looks like we now know who that suppressor company was that bought off the politicians to get it yanked out and changed to something very insignificant. You know, they didn't want to lose the ability to sell these $150 items for $1,500, $2,000. And they can only do that because it's on the NFA. It's controlled. If anybody can make them, and anybody can sell them, and anybody can buy them, well, the market isn't going to become as exclusive anymore. It's going to become less exclusive, and they're not going to be able to charge what they're charging. They're going to have more competition. They're going to have to make more products, sell more products to make less money. And they didn't want that to happen. So they said instead of losing millions of dollars that they've been able to pad their pockets pretty thickly with lately, they decided we'll spend a few $100,000, buy some politicians, get it changed. No one will ever notice. But we noticed. And we've also noticed who probably did it. And it's probably Silencer Shop. If you look at everything, it just adds up to Silencer Shop being the guilty party. For one, now they're on damage control. If you've noticed, if you paid attention to your inbox over the last day or so, you're getting things from like the Second Amendment Foundation saying Silencer Shop has renewed their commitment to the Second Amendment by becoming a double diamond supporter or whatever. Silencer Co. just donated to this organization and renewed their, commitment to defending the Second Amendment. They're on damage control. They're spending quite a bit of money on damage control. And gun rights groups are more than happy to help them because they're usually about the money. So they're willing to bring a traitor back into the fold and throw a sheet over them and pretend, that's just, that's an old coat rack. That's not a traitor. That's what they do all the time. So that's nothing surprising. But like I said, it's pretty clear now that it's Silencer Shop. Like I said, they're doing that. They're doing their damage control now. They're spending a lot of money for damage control. But speaking of spending money, if you follow the money that Silencer Shop has spent lobbying the U.S. government, I think it's pretty clear what happened. If you look at how much money Silencer Shop spent in 2023 to lobby, they spent nothing. Absolutely nothing. But if you look what they spent in 2024 was $135,000. That's a lot more than nothing the year before. And then since then, they've spent more. There's another $45,000 donation that's out there now. And in fact, now they're showing that for the last fiscal year, they're up to about $200,000 they've donated. I don't know if some of that's damage control. I'm betting some of that's been in the last week or so to try to buy some senators' silence. But that's a lot of money. And it's especially a lot of money if you look at when it was spent. Because you might think, well, they were spending it all through the year 2024. No, because if you look at the actual report for the fiscal year to the end of the year last year, the 2023-2024 fiscal year, well, that ended, you only had like the last 3 months of the year to be in this fiscal year, but still be donating last year. And since their donations are falling in this fiscal year, but were made last year, that means they did all that in the last 3 months. Once Trump got elected and it looked like, oh, this Hearing Protection Act might pass now. That's when they decide to start spending all that money. In the last 3 months of the year, it looks like they spent about $135,000. And now, since the turn of the year to 2025, even though it's still the 2024-2025 fiscal year, they're up to about $200,000. And this is public record. You can look it up. So tell me that a silencer company, a silencer shop, that didn't spend any money in 2023 and most of 2024, why in 3 months they suddenly spent thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars? And it just happened to be when this was on the ballot there, when this was in the bill. So we hear that, a big silencer company has paid politicians to pull it out and betray the gun owners, and this silencer shop, who had never paid a dime before in lobbying, since this was first brought up and first said it was going to be in the budget reconciliation bill, suddenly went from $0 to $200,000. Tell me that's not damning evidence. And add that, like I said, the fact they're doing damage control right now, I think it's pretty clear who did it. In my mind, in my opinion, there's no doubt it was silencer shop. And like I said, if they want to come after me for saying that, I welcome them to, because, discovery's a bitch. So bring it. But like I said, I'm not buying any suppressors until other companies step up and say, who did this? And they start letting people know who betrayed them. And I know that gun manufacturers and accessory manufacturers betray us all the time, but I'm sick of it happening, and I'm sick of them covering for each other when they do it. You all know who did it, say so. If you're a talking head on the internet, you know who did it, say so. A lot of you ain't got the balls because you don't want that money to stop coming in. That's why the gun groups and the talking heads, they don't like to name names, because then the checks stop coming from that name. I don't get checks from the name, so I got no problem saying, looks to me like Silencer Shop is the one that betrayed us. And like I said, until they speak up, I'm not buying any suppressors, but I'm definitely not buying anything from Silencer Shop. In fact, I don't see how anybody who supports the Second Amendment could buy something from Silencer Shop. I'm sure there'll be some people that's like, yeah, it's just business, I'm buying from them. And to those people, I'm like, it's great, that's fine. I don't call for boycotts, but it's nice that you're letting us know that you really don't care about the Second Amendment. You care about your toys and your boys that make your toys, and that's all you care about. Because like I said, looks to me like Silencer Shop was the culprit. Looks pretty cut and dry. And I don't see how anybody who actually cares about the Second Amendment could buy anything from them until they know. We were all talking about how the Republicans... Hey, everybody. Yeah. Why is that so bright? The silencer, the hearing... At the last minute, they pulled it. If you remember, very... lining their pockets pretty thick with that. So, groups, or the gun rights groups. Pockets with some Republicans in the House. Just passed the House. But so the people who got paid off to take it out. I've lost where I'm at. Let's start again.